Pensado's Place is brought to you by
Our guest is sitting in the middle of a pop firestorm. You're going to learn a lot from him. We've got a brand new ITL. You know you're at the place. It's Pensado's Place.
What's up, Herbert?
How are you, man?
Oh, man, special. I keep saying special to me. Remember I used to say amazing all the time? Now I say special too much.
That's right. Every
But
year
well,
you
how
have
do you
a new
describe a
adjective.
guest like we have today
No
and
question.
recently? I mean, they're special. They're unique.
Yeah.
They're like,
We are blessed to be able to do that. Cool Rolodex.
yeah, you know what?
Sir.
Let's make today Audience Appreciation Day on the
Okay.
place, you know?
Okay.
Because our audience allows us to do so many things, and they've given us encouragement and the opportunity to do some of these things.
Unbelievably.
And just for me to be able to sit with Mick is just going to be great. You
Absolutely.
Because our caves are in other sides of the country, you know?
Yeah. And somehow this has brought it all together. Want to get to it?
Let's see if we can talk him into moving to L.A. What do you say?
Okay, we'll bring him up in a second.
Do it, my friend.
All right. So, guys, good to see you. Welcome. Of course, we're coming to you live from the Art Institute of California, Los Angeles, from our beautiful HD studio, which stands for?
Hot damn. Let me explain this to you.
Okay, please.
'Cause I'm going to give you a little Southern today.
Please.
Hot damn, that Pensado's Place is a good show.
There you go.
Say
There
it.
you go. What's that? I'm
Say-
Canadian. That's
say-
not South. That's North. Right?
You can't say it,
Exactly.
can
I
you?
can, but I'm not going to embarrass myself.
I can't say ho. Let's clock some hoes. It just doesn't come out. Now, you try hot damn. Let me see what you can do.
No. We'll do that later.
Okay.
We have an
We'll do an
audience
ITL
waiting.
on that.
Absolutely. Speaking of Audience Appreciation Day, guys, you guys have been so supportive in our social media stuff. You've been wonderful. We're almost at 20,000 fans. So let's see if you can do it. Hit Facebook, like and subscribe. Do what you do. We're going to do that. And then Will, our producer, just told me that what he's going to do, he's got some extra Avid gifts. So he's going to pick a few people after we get there and send some stuff to you. So please do that. Hello to our wonderful sponsors who allow this to come to you for free. Vintage King, Drew Towson's in the chat room. Hey, Vintage King guys, say hello to Drew.
Drew.
You've got a Stump the
Yeah,
Vintage Guy
I
question?
do. Explain to everybody the Nyquist theorem in a sentence or less, and it's now become a verb. I'm getting close, or a noun, I guess. I'm getting close to the Nyquist, or I'm going to Nyquist this. Clarify that for our audience. I know you can.
And even though we can't talk about it yet, very soon we're going to be talking about a very cool thing we're doing at Vintage King, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Coming up shortly.
I'm
Stay
actually
tuned, guys.
working. I'm not being rude.
I got you.
Okay.
And also to
Carry on.
our buddies at Avid. Hey, Avid guys, spoke with them yesterday. We're going to be doing some interesting panels and things on behalf of Avid coming up very soon. So stay tuned for that information. You've been wonderful in this Indaba contest. The period is closed. We're going to be announcing that winner May 21st. So Dave is getting all the information now. We're going to start going through those
I
things.
snuck over there. There's some good stuff.
There's some
Herb.
good stuff.
There's some good stuff.
You guys are extremely talented. We're glad to be able to coalesce you and be able to hopefully bring you some prizing and stuff. It's a great track, and we're going to, so stay tuned. That announcement is May
Absolutely.
21st.
Absolutely.
One little thing that we want to do, it's Fan Appreciation Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So back in January at our NAMM, our 100th episode, which obviously we got there because of you guys, one of the things is Hal Leonard had approached us about doing a book.
Book publisher.
And I think they showed the book cover and announcement. Well, this is that agreement after 5 or 6 months. So Dave and I were talking on the way in, like we do before every show, and he said, why don't we sign that on air? So because of you, we get to sign our book agreement. Please sign away, sir. We appreciate you. We thank you so much.
How'd you spell Pensado?
Trawick. This is going to be something that is going to be a handy reference for you to utilize. It's going to be very cool. We're going to have a lot of fun in it. Some of our episodes, there will be print and electronic versions of it. Stay tuned. We got to write it, but it's because of you we get to sign it. And we are proud and honored. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So let's get to our guest, but first let's talk about an ITL. Why don't you introduce it? Let's go.
A little bit of a departure this week. This is a non-musical in the sense that I'm not showing you how to EQ a kick drum, but I'm giving you an idea of how to enhance your flow and speed up your workflow and stuff. So I think you're going to enjoy this one. It's applicable to a lot of stuff. I've shown it to a lot of my friends, and they didn't know it existed, so I hope I'm surprising with this one. Today, we're going to do something just a little bit different. Everything about mixing isn't EQ and compressors and plugins. Sometimes just getting a workflow going so that it enhances your creativity and doesn't interfere with it is a good thing. A friend of mine, a close friend of mine, Todd Chapman, sent me this feature in OS 10. I'm using 10.6.8 on this particular computer. I don't know how far back it goes, but check it and see. Basically what we can do is there's certain functions that you do a lot, and you need for me, I hate to use 3 hands and 2 keys and a foot to hold 18 different keys down to get something going. But you can program this with just 1 key. Now, on my keyboard, I've got F16, 17, 18, 19 available. So what you do, well, first let me show you how it works, then we'll show you how to get it. In Pro Tools, when you want to save, you have to go under the File menu, you have to go Save As, and then you hit that. Well, if you notice right now, there's a little F19 right here. I added that with this particular feature in OS 10. All I gotta do is just hit F19, blammo, there's my screen. Now, to keep your workflow going, sometimes you don't want to go to the top of the menu here and scroll down and get something. So this allows you to take 1 key or as many keys as you want. I like 1 key, and turn those into what we call a quick key. That's what I call them. Now, I've programmed F16, 17, 18, 19 is 1 hit quick keys. They're up here in the top right of my keyboard. Now you don't want to use a key that's already dedicated to something. So it has to be a combination or a key that's different. Now, in Pro Tools, when you want to save, you have to go Save As, and then it comes up. If you'll notice, see right there, it says F19. Well, I programmed that. So all I got to do is hit F19 right here, blam, and then on the screen I've got my my save. Another key I've got programmed is I use clip gain a lot, but sometimes I want to view the clip gain, and there's no quick key for that inside Pro Tools. So that toggles my view clip gain off and on. This key allows me, F17 allows me to see my system usage. I work at the max all the time, so I'm needing to see that. And then sometimes I need to hide my Pro Tools sometimes, so that allows me to do that. Now, what you want to do is you want to go to, you want to open up your system preferences, go over here to keyboard, then under keyboard shortcuts, and then application shortcuts. Now you'll see I've already programmed these 4 keys. Let me nuke one real quick. Let's nuke system usage. Okay. Now, what you do if you want to program system usage, remember it has to be the exact letters as the original. So let's go back and let me show you what I'm talking about. Now, if we want to program system usage, you see right here it says system usage. There's nothing. Now it's got to be the same capitals. It's got to be identical. We've got to type everything. If it's dots, you got to type everything identical. So I got my hide key. So now we hit plus. Now at the top, you select your application. Now this will work with any application in Pro Tools. See, I've selected Pro Tools, but it'll work with anything. So you select Pro Tools, the menu title, capital S, S-Y-S-T-E-M, space, U-S-A-G-E. So now we come over here, we click F17, you see it appears right here, add. Okay, now when we go back to Pro Tools, under system usage, we see F17. I hit F17, there's my system usage. It toggles off and on. Pretty simple, huh? You can use that for any of the applications that show up in the application folder there under the system usage. I mean, under the at the top of that particular window. I hope this improves your workflow. I hope this gets you a lot more efficient and keeps you in that zone, you know, when you're in that zone where you just don't want to come out of and think about moving around Pro Tools. This should help you a lot, and other programs too. It'll work with Logic. It'll work with everything. All right, next week.
We are happy to welcome to our desk somebody that's sitting in the middle of an absolute pop firestorm. The Daft Punk record is
Hottest record on the planet.
insane. This guy had a big hand to it. Welcome to our desk, an old friend, Mick Guzowski. How are you, bro?
Good. How are you?
Good. Three-way pound? Yeah. Oh, three-way pound. There we go. Cool. How you been, man?
Oh, pretty good.
Yeah?
Pretty good.
Made the trek across the country. You're here
Yeah.
with us?
Yeah.
In our madness? Cool. Dave, fire away.
So how do you say it?
Oh, New York? Hey, hot damn.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad. I'll take that.
Okay, cool.
Y'all, throw y'all out
Yeah. Hot damn y'all.
there. Sorry, Southern folk.
I butchered that one really good.
Mick, man, you've been an inspiration and someone I've learned so much from over the years. Our profession, a lot of people don't understand that back when you and I were getting started, it was the beginning of mixing as a standalone career. Prior to that, it was incorporated in all the other stuff, and
Yeah, getting those Edison cylinders to sync up. That was really
not that far back, wire recording, but you set the bar, man. And you set it very, very high. I used to be terrified when I knew I was going to be on the same record as you. It scared me because there's just no way I could have sounded that good. So I just
sure you
tried.
did.
I faked it. I went a different direction. But man, great to have you. And I want our audience to do their homework and go and study a little bit about this man, because in studying some of the things that he's accomplished and done, it's going to enhance your career. This Daft Punk thing is just incredible. I know you've been working on it for a minute, and it's finally good to birth that baby, right?
Yeah.
How
really.
long was the process of working on it?
The album, I worked on it for about 2 years, not continuously, but on and off for 2 years. And the guys were writing and putting the songs together for, I think, probably 2 years before that.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Spent about 2 weeks doing live tracks. Then they did edits, and then we did a couple days of orchestra session. And then they went back, edited, worked themselves, overdubbed guest artists, and then we came back, did some overdub sessions over about a year afterwards. Then they went back to France, worked on it another several months, and we all met back in LA last summer and spent the summer mixing.
Could you feel that you were? Did it feel like something special?
It really did. It did. I didn't know it was going to be like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of when, like all of us were in this business long enough, we sort of feel a record is going to be something, but and I never expected this.
Yeah. No,
It's very rare that we know when we're mixing it. We know a hit's a hit. We think they're all hits.
Yeah. And you almost have to think like they're hits.
Well,
and
I'm
treat
saying,
them as such.
but in a longer project, you sort of get a vibe that something's a little bit special, and that this one has got a better shot than most. And I really did feel that about this record, but I never really expected this.
I haven't heard the whole
amazing.
album, but the single feels like they had a very specific point of view. I mean, my take on it is that they just decided it's okay for a record to make you feel good.
Right.
Let's take the 70s, but make it the 2000s and beyond. Sort of stay true to who they are, but some homage to the past, but just enough. And I think it's interesting from a mixer's point of view that that balance is so perfect. You could have gone one way or the other. Was that their point of view? Is that what they wanted to try to do?
Right from the beginning.
Really?
They had that concept right from the beginning that it was going to be inspired by late 70s disco. Definitely keep 80s sounds out of it, and use a modern approach at the same time. And I think that was one of the reasons I was hired for a project. They a keyboard player, arranger who worked on the album, contributed a lot. Chris Caswell, and I go back a long time. And they asked Chris, who they thought would be a good engineer and mixer for an album of this concept, and he recommended me, and they Googled me, and so I sort of spanned the decades there.
Yeah.
And so this old fart got to work again.
And killed it. And killed it, I must say.
Did you know that between 1977 and 1979, 30 of the 38 #1 singles were disco records?
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
Wow, thank you for that obscure fact.
Yeah.
That's critical.
Because I'm not being disrespectful, but this is a disco record. It's
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
And the classic Donna Summer is just a classic, great,
Yes, absolutely.
feel-good record.
Disco sort of became a dirty word in the 80s, I think, when everybody was trying to copy everybody else. But in the beginning, there was some creative stuff
Yeah,
going on.
what was it Yankee Stadium or the stadium in Chicago where somebody had a disco burning?
Chicago.
It was
They
Chicago?
burned the records.
Wow. So Mick, when you start a project like that and you've got, let's don't call them boundaries because that implies something negative, but where the definition of where the project can go is placed in a strictly analog domain. Did you find that confining or did you find it refreshing?
I found it refreshing. I've been working in digital pretty much since the beginning of digital tape recorders. I did a project on a 3M digital when it was first out in 79 or 80.
Who was mixing on digital before you? Rhett maybe? Who else?
Rhett Lawrence is a real pioneer with it. I think I don't.
That's who I learned from.
Yeah.
But
And,
you and Rhett were easily the first two because you
now
guys were.
Rhett used a digital console back then. Back in those days, I used digital recorders, but I didn't have access to, didn't really have a digital console in the studios I worked at, so we were using digital recording and analog consoles. Rhett had the first digital console I've ever seen. It was an AMS, what was it?
Can't remember
Calrec.
them all.
I think it was it Calrec? Or,
Neve was involved too.
Yeah, it was
In
Neve,
fact, the Waves
AMS.
people were involved with
Yeah.
that too.
yeah, it was. I think it was AMS. I think it was Calrec. I'm not 100% sure.
Today's question: what way was it exciting for you to now keep that analog sound but utilize it today? What challenges as a mixer did it sort of stimulate in you?
Well, I should talk a little bit about how we did the project first.
Yeah.
We tracked it to Pro Tools at 96 kilohertz, and we also tracked the basic tracks, drums, bass, keyboards, to analog 24 track, and transferred the analog to Pro Tools. So we had direct digital tracks plus the analog tracks transferred, so they could edit and work with both streams of information. Then in the mix, we decided song by song, section by section, sometime whether the sound, the softer sound in the rounder, bigger bottom of the analog really fit it, or the clarity of the digital fit it. So we had that.
I'll Get Lucky. Which one?
Get Lucky, I'm pretty sure was digital all the way through.
No joke.
Yeah.
I don't know why that makes me happy. That's wrong on so many levels.
But it feels so human. It feels so analog.
Well, the thing is, it's a live band.
Yeah.
It's a live players.
Yeah.
It's
You just feel Niall sitting there. Yeah.
we didn't hype a lot of things in the mix. I mean, we used some effects. We didn't. Nothing against plugins, but it was the band's choice to use analog outboard gear, which was sort of fun. Which was fun to go back to because
Throwback, huh?
as a throwback, and also every specific sample of an analog piece sounds different, slightly different from another one.
Yeah.
So it was fun to go through a pile of 1176s for something and find out one we liked, and a few Neve 33609s and find out one that really fit what we were doing best. And
very cool.
and it was an audiophile's dream,
Sure,
actually, the
sure.
project. And we mixed to half-inch tape.
Oh, did you really?
We mixed to both 15 and 30 EPs, and they decided by the song which one we would use, and actually ran several passes off the automation at different levels to the tape machine to see how much saturation would sound best on it. And it was a process, and it was a fun process, and it was something that I think it's almost become a lost art because budgets in most cases are so small, and these guys financed their own album, wanted to do it right, wanted to satisfy their own curiosity
Did they
too.
really?
Yeah, about the
Oh, that's fantastic.
about how things would sound. So there was really no restrictions, and it was a tremendous experience for me because we just don't get to do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
So John Robinson did the drums on that, right?
Yes.
Man, phew. I mean, you didn't use a machine, but you used a machine. I mean, good God, I was listening to that, and it's like, that guy's,
He's great.
whew. I mean, he's better than a machine.
He is, and the great thing with him is like, well, things like when I used to live here in LA and I'd record him all the time in the '80s, and now back I think in 2010 we did that. Plays every bit as good, every bit.
So Mick, on the vocals, describe the chain that you use for tracking that vocal. Pharrell he's just right in my face. There's not a lot of ambience on the mic.
I could describe mixing it because I didn't track that. I didn't track that vocal. I said they did most of the guest artists. They went around where the artists were and did the and did most of the vocals like that.
What you were given, did it have a lot of ambience in the vocal mic?
No. I mean, it was a very clean,
Seems
very
like a song
present.
face. What was
present
your
vocal.
mix chain?
Mix chain on that was we used some of the console EQ. It was a Neve 88R. Used an LA2A compressor. De-esser was a DBX 902.
Ooh, I hate those.
And I don't know if we used,
HF only in?
no, I like them. I like them. If I can use them broadband, I like where they sound better. I don't like that crossover filter. So if they're working broadband, they're just attenuating the whole signal and being almost impossible to say an S and anything else at the same time. They'll usually work like that if it's a single vocalist. As far as effects, we actually used a real EMT 140 plate with a Lexicon PCM42 digital delay in front of it for pre-delay, and then another PCM42 for a slight slap echo that's very hidden behind it, chorused a little bit.
That second delay from the 42 is run up the middle?
Don't quite remember exactly that. I usually pan those off a little bit.
But you had stereo or just one?
It was just one on that. I can pretty sure that I just used one on that. Because it's so faint back there. It's mainly a present vocal with just a little space around it from the plate.
One of the students here at Chongor, he took that mix and he put it in Pro Tools and put an MS plug-in on it and took the middle out and was just listening to the sides. And he was complimenting you about how pristine the reverb that was left on the sides was. Normally you would EQ the returns on your reverbs. Did you EQ that return?
I EQ'd the send.
You EQ'd the send?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you take out? A little bit of low?
Took out a little bit of low end, added a little bit of 5K shelf.
Oh. Okay.
I think I used a, I don't have recall notes with me, and we did so many songs, so I couldn't tell you. I did use on most of on the Send EQ. I did use API 550A, taking down 100 hertz shelving. I think probably 4 dB and maybe up to 5K shelf.
Okay.
That's what I did. It was a nice plate they have there over at Conway, too.
I never boost going into a plate because it tends to splatter. How you didn't get that splatter?
I didn't use that much. I didn't send that much to it on that vocal.
Okay. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would if I was really hitting that plate hard, I'd agree. I wouldn't, and I'd EQ the returns. But.
Okay. On the backgrounds, they're really well done. But I've never heard you add. Did you add some like 1.5K, 1K?
We're talking about the vocoder?
No, just the backgrounds behind Pharrell during the hooks. Do you remember?
Let's see.
Because I thought they sounded very modern the way you approached them.
I'm pretty sure now. See this again. There were so many different songs. In most cases, on the background, I EQ'd them in the console with the EQs in the 88R and used I think 1176s on most background vocals and de-essers if I needed to.
Let me ask you something, Mick. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Okay, and in some cases, used the old harmonizer trick: one up a few cents, one down a few cents, mixed across, right one feeding left one feeding right. Yeah. So I say this was mostly vintage effects. They really didn't want to. I mean, wanted to keep true to what we could do with the analog gear, and the modernness is in their arrangements and some of the production they put over, that they overdubbed on it.
There's two people in this world that seem to have a grasp on S's and sibilants. You and Ron Fair, you guys can get the S's up as loud as they'll go without doing the negative things that does. You know, what's your philosophy on that? How do you do that? Do you DS and then push it up and then DS some more and push it up? Or,
sometimes I'll use dual de-essing. Sometimes, most of the time not. It depends on the vocal, depends on the sibilants. It's usually pulling back a little bit, about 7K and up at 12 to 15, 12 to 18.
Will you boost that high?
I boost very high on the vocals, and usually you don't hear the extreme
top. What's the shelf? You're pulling up a little bit of 9 and 10 though.
Yeah, I'm using a peak. So what I do is, if I center a peak around 15K, 18K, sometimes 20, it's not really that you're hearing. I just broaden the peak out to essentially give a shape to a shelf, because you're not going to hear the higher side of that peak, but you can adjust.
Say that again. Give shape to the shelf.
You adjust the Q of the equalizer. So, for instance, if you were going to put a shelf in at say 8, 10K, just above the sibilance region, that shelf on most equalizers is going to be 6 dB per octave, or a very broad Q. If you take a peak and put a peak in at say 20K, you can adjust the Q, and the side from 10K up to 20, you can adjust how steep that's coming up. And what's above 20 is not really going to matter. If it causes a problem, you could filter it. But I mean, what you're essentially doing is having a variable slope shelf.
In terms of philosophical, like energy, like when you hear S's in a mix, what are you trying to get them to do to you emotionally? Not as a technical person now, but as the creative. Why do you like them the way you like them? Because they're perfect. And the reason I'm saying this is on the backgrounds on Get Lucky, the S's are like, they're just like gold. They're like butter. What are you trying to accomplish? As a listener, what are you trying to get me to feel by doing that?
It shouldn't be harsh. It shouldn't hurt your ears, but it should be very clear. I mean, you want to have vocalists sound very, very personal, and I think you do that by really emphasizing the diction, S's, T's, things like that, but not overemphasizing that they're harsh or anything, but make sure that the vocal sounds present. I think that's very key to a present vocal.
Do you feel like you're gaining a little extra perceived level by doing that? Because if they're too loud, then you have to pull the whole mix down, those vocals down, and that makes the track sound.
Yeah, you're getting more perceived level on the vocal by turning the S's up. I guess it would do that a little bit by giving a little more diction. I haven't really thought of that. I was just thinking of, just keeping it really silky smooth up there, that you don't get the lower part of the S where it can be a little harsh, or it can get in the get in the up, in some of the harmonics of snares and things like that. I'd like to keep it above, and if there's not a lot of cymbals going on, it works.
Didn't you spend a lot of time making your own dual de-esser one time?
I made it, yeah, because this thing didn't exist at the time. It was before the first commercial unit I know that came out like this was Brooks Siren. But what I did was I built a little compressor, and or it's actually a parametric equalizer using a state variable filter. And in the boost and cut network, I built a little compressor circuit, and the compressor circuit detector was fed by the broadband input of the signal, and it subtracted the broadband input from the bandpass of the filter. So it made sort of a floating threshold, and when what was in the bandpass of that filter exceeded what was exceeded by a set threshold of the broadband signal, it would cut in that frequency. So it was a dynamic equalizer, basically. And and it worked really good. I had it over at Conway. I had it in a little one of those little die-cast
remember
bud boxes with
remember seeing
an A&R guy named it the Gazowski and Dubicator, and it was there for years, and someone stole it. So
Oh, wow.
hope the bastard's having fun with it.
I'll try and get it back to you.
Was there a specific thought process from the guys about Pharrell as the vocalist on this? Were there other people?
That I really don't know. I was,
It's a perfect fit. I mean,
yeah,
that was-
I'm sure I'm pretty. They pretty much planned things out very well.
yeah, they
so
seemed
I
very
would say,
thorough. and
yeah,
specific.
very
Got it.
thorough.
They did their research
Yeah.
and did the
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Take me through the process of once you get the vocal, how you place it in a mix, because a lot of people are confused by that. And
How do I place it in a mix? Loud.
Just that simple.
if it's too loud, the track sounds wimpy. If it's too soft, the vocalist sounds wimpy. When you, I know you work by feel, but like for me, I tend to kind of match it to the snare. I don't know why. I use the snare as a guideline. Everything else can be where it is, but I want the snare to be here and the vocal to be here. Is there a process that you use for? Let's expand the question. Let's make it about ratios in terms of balance in a mix, because you're really good at that too. What's your philosophy on that?
My philosophy is usually that the kick and bass, I try to use quite a bit of the available level for that, because the feel of the bottom end in that kind of song, I think is really important. The snare, it all depends on the song. If the feel is a lot of subdivisions and stuff, I don't really emphasize the snare. If it is really just 2 and 4, I do emphasize the snare. I just try to keep the vocals supported by chordal instruments, and above them, but not that not that it totally dominates the track where you don't feel the band. But I would say I probably look at the vocal more in relation to like a piano or guitar parts, or just the total chordal kind of concept, chordal content of the song.
Speaking of chordal, your backgrounds tend to make a chord for me. I don't tend to hear individual notes, and I love that. I got that from you. A lot of times back in the day, we'd get everything in 2 tracks. There's not much we could do, but nowadays, having access to all those, I noticed on this song, the backgrounds just make a chord. I don't hear like one note above another note. Is that something you do consciously?
I wouldn't say really. I think that's probably more in the arrangement than what I do. I mean, I try, if something's sticking out, I would try to find that, if it's comped, I would try to find that frequency of the fundamental of the note that's sticking out, and with EQ and bring it back, or bring one up. I mean, I would try to even it out. Consciously, I don't want, I mean, if it's a background that's a 3-part harmony, I wouldn't want one part sticking out. Because usually the backgrounds aren't that loud, and if you have one note and a chord sticking out, it'll sound a lot of times to me like a single note.
The claps on that song, did you record those?
Yes,
So they were real?
they were real. A&M or
They
Henson,
sound-
now Studio
I was
B.
trying to hear in headphones if I could hear them change to see if they were real, but they're pretty consistent.
They're real, but they're looped. I don't know if he used this, if they edited from a single sample or a group of them, but the claps did record live.
Because he recorded and then sequenced them in.
Yeah. Because a lot of their production technique will record stuff and they treat it like, I wouldn't say a sample, like one sample, but they'll treat a lot of stuff as looped.
section or
But those claps were recorded live. I think we probably about 6-8 feet distant. I think we used two. I don't know if they ended up in stereo on the record, or
How many people were doing?
I think it's 4, but it's probably I'm sure it's doubled a few times.
sure.
Yeah, it was a couple. I think a couple U67s that were our room mics, or 87s. It was whenever we were using room mics at the
Something
time.
with a 7 in it.
Yeah.
So, sports fan, let's
Yeah,
tee
the
up
clap,
your
it
arm.
doesn't really matter too much.
Is your arm loose?
Man, I can't believe the time went by so fast.
Time for batter's box. Let's
Slow pitches, please.
let's tee it up. Oh, you're going to knock him out of the park. We're not worried. Batter up. Fire away.
Okay, we're going to do a little bit different today, Herb.
Okay.
We're going to have an island batter's box today.
Great.
So he can only tell me his island choices
First
If
an
he-
umbrella drink, then I'll be ready.
There you go. So
If he
that's
was
the first
stranded, if he was
pitch.
stranded on an island with tons of electricity and a Pro Tools rig,
And an umbrella drink.
what would he choose? This
Okay.
compressor.
As far as a discrete piece of gear, probably a distressor. As far as a plug-in, let's see, what would I use as a plug-in for a compressor? I would say, well, I've been using lately a lot is that channel strip, the Euphonics one that comes with Pro Tools. I'm getting to like that compressor.
Okay. EQ.
EQ, as far as a outboard piece of gear, probably Avalon 2055 or similar. And a plug-in would have to be between the Sonox for its sound. I love the top end of that EQ as for a plug-in EQ, and for just versatility, the Fab Filter EQ.
There's a scoop.
Yeah, and let's see what else. What else? Oh yeah, I can't forget the Weiss EQ as a digital outboard piece of gear.
You still using
I still
that
use
thing,
it.
huh?
Yeah.
I didn't know that for years. That screwed me up. Okay, Mike.
Mike would, let's see, I would say a U67.
Reverb.
EMT 140 plate. A good
How
one.
you
If
gonna
I had
get
a
that
good
on
one.
an island, Mike?
If I had I know, that's true. That's true. So what would I use?
I'd carry a plug in for
actually-
everything if I were you, because you know you got to schlep it back out.
Yeah, it's actually, this is going to be surprising coming from me, the discrete reverb guy, is I've been loving the UA plugins. Their EMT 140 plates are
224
beautiful, and their EMT 250 is wonderful too, I think.
Delay.
Delay, anything. The Digit Design extra long delay, because you can set it at any frequency, lock it to the tempo,
Okay.
feed it back through EQ, do whatever you want with it.
De-esser.
De-esser probably as plug-in the UA, definitely. UA or Fab Filter, both. I use both of them. And as an outboard piece of gear, the DVX 902.
The cheapest piece of gear you've ever used on a #1 record.
Okay.
What would you schlep
A
to
pair of
the
Oratones. I don't know.
Okay. Remind me to ask you about your speakers now that we're
Oh, I
talking
know.
about speakers.
Probably a Yamaha SPX 990 or 900 or something years ago.
Yeah, I like those.
Very good.
The early reflections.
Yeah.
Okay, let's end up with chorus flanger.
Chorus flanger.
slash flanger.
Discrete piece of gear, Eventide DSP 4000, or probably the newer ones too. And plug in, what's that? Metaflanger, I know I've used that. Yeah, I'd say
Waves.
Metaflanger, yeah.
Killed it.
Man, it's good.
Yeah, yeah.
I slipped a couple of knuckleballs in there, and he hit
He
everyone out
hit
the
everyone
park.
and
man.
hit some of them twice. Hit a bunch of them twice.
Give me a second, real quick.
Sure.
When he mentioned speakers, I'm fascinated by the speakers that you designed with your partner. I forget his name.
Larry Swiss.
yeah.
He's a studio designer, acustician.
like the world doesn't need any more monitors. Why do yours have a reason to exist?
Well, first of all, it was sort of a science project, and I wanted a pair of good monitors for my studio at home, and being I'd say fairly large for a home studio, but a small control room as far as generally control rooms go. I wanted a pair of speakers that would that if needed give me the SPL that in-wall monitors would in a bigger control room, and also the extended low frequency without having to use a sub.
Was there a speaker before yours where the low frequency was in one box and the mid and highs were in another box? Is that a new concept that you came up with?
I think so. I mean, I haven't heard of it being done before. That was actually Larry's idea on that, and it came out of we use these rubber. They look like rubber. Rings, like rubber donuts with a screw coming out of each side. And the mid-range and tweeter box hangs on these. And these are actually selected for the weight of that box, giving a decoupling of about 8 to 10 hertz. So anything that woofer can put out isn't going to be transferred
Let me
to
just
the
direct
mid-range
our
and
audience to the website, because those things are so complex. But there is a lot of new innovation, and I have not heard them, but I've heard they sound incredible.
tweeter. Thank you.
By the way, let's.
And the thing is, I just want to say one more thing about
Sure.
them, that they've come to, I mean, we sell a few. They're mostly a custom item, but I use them for I use them for tracking. I use them for mixing because they do have enough output to be exciting during a tracking session to play back for the musicians. I use them for mixing. I very rarely use any other speakers now. They're very flat. Digital crossover. They can be tuned to the room. They have 30 presets. You can tune them to different rooms. So pretty much I tracked and mixed the Daft Punk album on them, and the Daft Punk guys bought a pair from us, and they did the rest of it that they did
Real
on them.
quick,
So,
Mix, mention the website real quick, where you can go look at them.
GazowskiSwist.com.
SWIST.
ST.
And we'll post that on the show and make sure you go to it. We got Will Thompson's in our corner office, and we have a ton of questions. Will, how are you?
I'm doing well, but yourself, Herb?
Good, good, good. Let's get to a bunch of them this
pet
episode.
giraffe.
Fire away, William.
All right, I'll get right to it. This one comes from Roman English on Facebook. What is the way to achieve that tight, huge-sounding, modern low end like you have on the new Daft Punk record? The live kick drum doesn't sound that huge, but it connects to the bass so well and makes the mix work together and jump out of the speakers.
And nobody does that better than Mick Gazowski.
Thank you. Actually, since I did the live tracks, I sort of set it up that we could match the kick with the bass in any song. The kick's recorded with four microphones. There's a D112 in there, which is the main one we use. There's a Sony C500, which is an old Sony condenser mic. It's not made anymore, but it's great at handling high SPLs. That is right next to the D112, so they're nice and phase aligned. And the nice thing about the C500 is it gives sort of a DC to light kind of sound. It's flat, and you can really get the tick of the beat, or there's the edge of the kick and the definition there. Then there's a 47 FET outside that's later phase aligned to the other mics, and a woofer out of an NS10 that just sort of resonates and gives a little tone. We didn't use too much of that, but in different songs we just use different combinations of the microphones to get the kick sound. Usually I do it with EQ, but in this project we actually did it real. We did it acoustically.
What compressor did you use on the bass?
On the bass, LA2A.
Will, fire us up another one.
All right, this one comes from Smith Williams. How was Nile Rodgers tracked? DI or mic, outboard chain, plugins, such a fantastic sounding record. Can't wait to watch.
I didn't record Nile on that. There was something the guys went and did at his studio, so I couldn't really say how it was recorded.
Sounds like he does a direct and
Yeah,
a little bit
DI
of
and a mic. Yeah, it does sound like that, but I couldn't be too
sounds like
specific
that's what
about
he
that.
Fire away, William.
Do you use any reference mixes, especially while mixing the new Daft Punk album mix?
Actually, when we mixed the new Daft Punk album, very little. I think a couple times the guys, Daft Punk guys, I'd say only twice, maybe in the whole project, is they played me something to just sort of keep me back in the 70s disco kind of vibe and everything.
Go backwards.
Yeah. Played some old records, that we, to get the vibe, but then, we wanted to go for modern, high fidelity too with it. So.
Great. William?
Okay, this one comes from Nat Love. Mick, can you please share some pointers on how you make your lead vocals sit in the mix? How is your approach different when mixing four or so vocals a la Boyz II Men as opposed to a single voice?
My approach with a single voice and four voices like that, as they're singing lead, is really not that different. But I do, when there are four guys singing lead, I do process them each separately and try to fairly meticulously ride each vocal. And where one guy leaves off and another guy takes up, their voices are really in about the same place. And I may use a slight bit of panning to stage it, not try to have too much crowded in one area, but I really try to make it that each guy takes up the same amount of space as the previous guy, wherever he ends up dynamically.
Got another one?
Yeah, this was kind of an interesting one. A question for Mick, and I guess, Dave, you can answer this one too. When you guys are using hardware EQs, do you tend to use them differently than plug-in EQs, like additive and subtractive, or do you guys use hardware and software in exactly the same manner?
You want me to do it?
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, they're different. Think of a car will get you from here to Vegas. One can be a straight shift and one can be an automatic. If you're using analog, Mick and I were talking about this earlier. I'll let Mick expand on it, but sometimes when you're using analog, you try to make it sound digital, and sometimes when you're using digital, you make it sound analog. I don't know why we can't ever be happy with what we're given, but yeah, the approach is different. I'll do an Into the Layer on that real soon, showing the differences, because the gap now between a lot of these things is so small. Like I'll give you some examples. The Massive Passive, the API 550s with waves and UAD. There's so many things now that the gap probably is past the average listener's ability to hear the difference between analog and digital. But I would say, and this is just I'll let Mick answer it. The difference in process is more in the gain staging of the two concepts as opposed to the actual individual elements within that gain stage.
Yeah,
Mr. G.
Yeah, I totally agree. So on an analog equalizer, you really don't have as much headroom you're working with as with a digital system, especially if it's floating point processing. So you really have to be careful. You have to, and usually if you have an EQ, say your EQ is in the stereo bus, it's now before your fader. So you have to make sure that you hit the bus, that your equalizer is operating at an optimum level, not too low for noise, not too high to reach the headroom of any band that's boosted, and then and then adjust the gain afterwards. So you have to really be cognizant about how you're hitting the mix bus in that case.
What's your go-to EQ on the stereo bus?
Avalon 2055 usually, if it's analog. Or I've used Massive Passive before. I love the Massive Passive on ballads because you can get that air like nothing.
on the stereo bus?
Yeah,
Wow.
and the plug-in Massive Passive is very good also, very close. I tried an EQ that Alan Meyerson lent me on a new Herb Alpert album I'm working on, and a lot of it's orchestral, and it's an EQ called EAR.
Oh yeah, they had a compressor.
Yeah, and this EQ, I mean, talk about air and stuff beautiful on an orchestra. It's just silk.
I used that compressor on Christina's first couple of records, first 2 or 3 records.
Nick, let me ask you a question, because since you're sort of sitting in the middle of a cultural firestorm, our audience is this broad mix of guys who are aspiring to do things, professionals like yourselves and so forth, and you've now seen, you're sitting in the middle of something really current and you go back a long way. What advice do you give folks in terms of how to approach their craft? I always feel like they should be open to anything.
I totally agree. I mean, a lot of the reason I got this Daft Punk gig is because I have experience in several decades of music, and I could pretty much say a record I've worked on that's been sort of successful any time from the late 70s till now. Minus a few years I've been a total hermit in New York.
But you've earned that.
Mick is very,
And I'm back.
Mick's not one to brag on himself, but he's done everything from Eric Clapton, for which he won a Best Engineered Record for. He's done disco, he's done ballads, R&B, hip hop, and when I say he's been an important part of my career on a number of levels, I'm not exaggerating. There's been a handful of people. Alan Meyerson is one, and Mick also. Mick and I haven't been that close over the years, but we do talk. We have talked, and he's someone that his character is impeccable and has just been an example on every level, business, person, and sonically.
On our behalf, I got to tell you, one is it's great to have a friend who's winning and whose art has been recognized and repurposed in a way that's modern. Congratulations for that. We are having some discussions about heading to New York and doing something for the fans, and we'd love for you to be a part of that. Can we call you at some point in time and talk about that?
Definitely.
This has been, you did a Brian McKnight record for me a long time ago, and we talked on the phone, but we never met. So this has been great meat and potatoes for our audience. I mean, if you're a mixer or a tech guy, you got lots of stuff from two really smart people about it. You'll come back and join us, and we can call you?
I sure will.
Man, such a pleasure, Mick. Thank
Same
you so
here.
much. Dave, take us home.
Okay, guys. If there ever was an appropriate usage for the term hot damn, that was a good show. I want you guys to, I'm giving you a homework assignment. I want you to go back. One of the great marriages in all of music was Walter A., Mariah Carey, and Mick Kazowski. I'm not sure music ever got any better than that. My All is the name of a song that I tried to emulate that vocal sound, and I was lucky enough to work on a Mariah song recently, and all I could think about was that song and how I didn't want to embarrass myself by not trying to get as good. I didn't get it as good as Mick did, but go back and listen to some of the combination of Mick and Walter, and who's going to be on the show soon, and Mariah. And it's a 2-year course in how to engineer. It really is. Those records are state of the art for the craft that we love and pursue. And they're executed just for the pure passion of music. There's no boundaries, no limitations. It was a great singer, great writer, producer, and one of the top 5 engineers ever, Mick Guzowski. So that's your homework. We'll see you next week.